Hello and welcome to Long Beach Lens. I'm your host, Derek J. Simpson, Executive Director of the Long Beach Community Action Partnership. Today's guest is a multi-genre award-winning musician. Please join me in welcoming Gregg Young. Now, Gregg, typically when I see you, it's in the coffee shop down on 2nd Street. We've been talking about getting this show together for a while, man, but that was in our conversation, but I've heard you play several times around the city, and I must say you're an amazing musician, so kudos to you for being a master of your craft. But for those who don't know Gregg Young and the 2nd Street Band, tell us a little bit about you and the band.
Sure. As you mentioned in the intro, multi-genre, award-winning, so we specialize in jazz, blues, R&B, rock and roll, Caribbean steel drum music, Latin jazz, slash rock, funk, pop, and that was nominated Best Americana not too long ago. And so those are our areas of expertise. And
there's not much left after that, Gregg.
we love to play, and the players are so much fun to work with, and the vocalist, it's really a joy and a pleasure.
Right. And you've been a musician most of your life, right?
Most of my life, yes. Since I was about 10, I think, when I started playing guitar.
Okay. Now, for those who might be watching this, because we work so much with youth, if there's a youth watching, what would your encouragement be as a lifelong musician to pursue their dream as a musician? Because some people might say, no, put that down and go focus on something else, but you pursued your dream and made it a career. What would you say to that talented youngster?
Well, the first one is practice, practice, and practice.
Right.
And the second part would be, there's an adage that goes around with professional musicians. If you don't practice one day, you notice it. If you don't practice 2 days, the band notices it. If you don't practice 3 days, the audience notices it.
Okay.
And it's really that simple. And then there's another one about woodshedding. So you go and you work on different tunes, you work on whatever it might be, whatever direction you're heading. You work on everything you can within the concept of if it's going to be a duo, if it's going to be a trio, if it's going to be a quartet, if it's going to be a big band, or if it's going to be you solo, whatever it is, you need to spend time in those areas to work on it to where it becomes second nature. The motor responses are it's just part of you.
Right. Right. Now, when we were talking before the show, we were talking about first. You know, and you were listing off this list of first that you've done in Long Beach, and it was pretty impressive. So you have your list there. Share some of the first, and to give context, it's some of the first actual events that have occurred in Long Beach.
Exactly.
With that said, share a couple of those. Yeah.
Okay, there's a charity here in Long Beach. It's called Ability First, and we've been doing that for many years. We just played the gala, their 50th anniversary, and probably done over 20, 25, where during the holidays we would go in and play for the kids in their wheelchairs, and I would, of course, donate the band, and we would go and then Santa would come in. It was just something that we would do for Ability First. We love the kids. It's a wonderful, heartwarming event. The next one, they're alphabetized to a degree. The AIDS Walk Long Beach, the very first AIDS Walk ever. Proud to say we played for it. Wow. Proud to say we played for the second one as well. Okay. This one is extraordinary. This is really, really, really. When you're doing this and you're living your life and you're doing the progression through your day-to-day and all of your different shows, you don't really know what meaning it's going to take on later. So this one is very, very special for Long Beach. The Aquarium of the Pacific played for 3 of the grand openings. I wrote and performed a theme called Aquarium of the Pacific, and then when we played in the Belmont Shore Christmas Parade, we were the first electric band. So going back, Aquarium of the Pacific, fantastic, I guess it would be one of the really high marks here in Long Beach as far as being able to be there when history was being made. Right. And then the Belmont Shore Christmas Parade, we just had one.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, and they're wonderful. We played for a few of them, and so that one blended in when I read it, and that was the very first electric band. We were in behind a pickup truck in a U-Haul trailer with a gas generator. So it was like really early. But then we went on and we wound up getting like an 18 wheeler and a 250 kilowatt generator, and we were sponsored by Universal Studios, excuse me, and we had all the characters down. We actually televised it from the float. We were flying sound on both sides and lights, and so and then we had the Belmont Athletic Club's aerobic team, and each year it was different. And then there was one that comes up here, where I wrote a song for the DARE program, D3, Don't Do Drugs. And we went into the schools, Rogers and Lowell, and this is part of the Christmas parade. I jumped a little bit, but that one, the 4th and 5th graders sang the song on the float one year, and it was dedicated to the DARE program and not doing drugs.
Let me ask you, because you're talking about these different events, and there's so much to cover with you because you have such a diverse career. But it's not just you, though you're the leader and you're out front. You have a pretty talented group of professional musicians behind you.
Oh,
Can
absolutely.
you speak to them as well? Like, who are some of those people and what makes them so special?
Yeah, the current ones, there's quite a number of alumni, really. Decided to keep the name Gregg Young and the Second Street Band for the continuity, because bands will change their name, and when you have the Unicorns one year and the Turtles the next, and then it's just like who, what, where, what, huh? So anyway, it's been Gregg Young and the Second Street Band, and I think it's helped that way. So from memory, some of the most recent players, the ones that play the Dome Arclight Entertainment Center with me quite often, and also play the Stroll and Saver and other events and other performing arts centers. Quinn Johnson on keyboards. He's a Grammy Award-winning keyboard player, very talented guy. Ming Freeman, another keyboard player. He's Yanni's keyboard player, travels with Yanni all the time, has been with Yanni since the beginning. But there was a time when Yanni wasn't quite so active, and so we wound up getting together. We've been working together for over 10 years now. Wow. So Ming he's brilliant. In fact, he's on the new CD. We'll hear that, I think, Suavecito later on in the show. And then Kirkwood Coakley, he's originally from the Bahamas. He and his brother T. Coakley, they were managed by Bob Marley's manager. Kirk is the bass player, T is a keyboard player. And they came to the United States. They were on Capitol Records. They're Grammy nominated. Then we have Felice Hernandez, one of our vocalists. We've had Rafia Ford. We've had Elisa Deese, and Elisa Deese is really very interesting. Her other name is Elisa Friarello, and when she was very young, she worked with Prince. And she was a star, an up-and-coming star. Then what happened after that, she left and was doing other things. She worked with us. In fact, there's pictures on Facebook. She sang for Mayor Bob Foster's, what would that be, his inaugural, his the party, the fun one at the convention center. And then Prince called her back, and she was with Prince up until his passing for the last, 5, 6, 7 years, maybe longer. Wow. And so, intense vocally. I mean, just brilliant, beyond brilliant. She's really, really good.
So and then, if we're local and we hear that Gregg Young is anywhere in Long Beach, it's going to be a show with you out front, right?
I wear a lot of hats, right? And if someone can do it better than I do, and then I have to mention someone very, very special, Andrea Palm. Andrea Palm had an unfortunate accident after singing an Easter Sunday service on 2014. And she shattered her knee, she shattered her shoulder. She's somewhat similar to Aretha Franklin in a way. Wow. And she was the house singer at Birdland West when the Birdland West Jazz Club was here. So with Al Williams.
Years ago.
Yeah, and then when Al needs a vocalist for the Jazz Festival here in Long Beach, if Barbara Morrison doesn't do the show, Andrea does. And so she is phenomenal, but right now she's in a wheelchair. 14 pieces of metal in her leg. But a voice that, in fact, that ties me into something else. On iTunes, so I'm going to shift just a little bit, one of our recordings, Pink Cadillac, I rearranged it. It's a Bruce Springsteen song. Andrea's singing it. It's number 28 of all Pink Cadillacs on iTunes. Wow. You have to hear it. Please visit iTunes, check that one out. And then number 5, there's a song called "Coming Home Baby." It's an instrumental song. Mel Torme had made it famous. It's a great jazz. I guess you'd call it a groove jazz song, but ours is number 5 of all coming home babies on iTunes.
Now you're talking about all these names, but you've been on the stage at some point in time with people like Jimi Hendrix and Bob Dylan and Linda Ronstadt. At least shared the stage. Right?
Yeah.
So you didn't necessarily perform with these people.
I know I did.
But
I didn't play.
being in that mix had to be pretty exciting as well. Huh?
Yes. So there's Gregg Young. If you that'd be 1.0.
Right.
And that's when I grew up in San Francisco.
Okay.
And was signed to a major label very early. And played Bill Graham shows, Fillmore West, played Family Dog shows, played the Berkeley Community Theater, played major pop festivals, signed to the major label, Dot Paramount Records, had 2 vinyl LPs and a single. And so as soon as you get signed to a major label, it's one day you're sitting around with the band. And this is for young musicians. You're sitting around and you're hoping the good things happen, and you're doing whatever you think is necessary. Your management is telling you if you have a manager. And then we played this show at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, and we were really great live. Whenever we played, people would just go bananas or bonkers or whatever. I mean, same thing happens now. We get people up, we get them dancing, we create a conga line. Then we didn't do the conga line so much, but we somehow were able to make that connection. So we were signed to the major label, and it was like taking off on a rocket ship. So you go from almost no money when you're young into like $10,000 asks, and would you come and play this show, that show, and then you're on major festivals, just like all the young cats are doing now, and young ladies, And when that happens, you're in a bubble. It's a different world.
Well, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we will continue our conversation with Gregg. As you can see, he has lots of interesting stories. Stay tuned for more of Long Beach Lens.
Hello, I'm Barry Kogert with the Jazz Angels. We've created an environment where seasoned jazz professionals and young students perform side by side. Our students range in age from 10 to 19 and come from a wide variety of backgrounds and schools. The jazz bands are organized by skill level rather than age. If you want to have a positive impact on our youth, get involved with the Jazz Angel team or make a tax-deductible donation. Please visit www.jazzangel.org or call 562-981-8410. Thank you.
As a 19-year-old, I've personally witnessed too many lives ruined and lost due to gang violence. Families devastated due to early deaths, youth spending the majority of their lives in jail, serious injuries such as flesh wounds, brain damage, and even paralysis. All these things can be avoided and lives can be spared. Your life is worth more than the neighborhood. You have a choice. Be a leader, not a follower.
They have offered me opportunities. They allow me to utilize equipment that they have. I get to practice more so than I would with the supplies that I have with the equipment that I have.
I'm learning how to work again with more people and how to actually work in an actual studio and working with the cameras and hands-on.
I remember they said like LAMP as in leadership. I learned a little bit about how to become a leader, as well as communicating with the people I work around with.
After being here, all the teaching, all the skills I've been learning, it became easy. It's like learning the alphabet. And from we start from the bottom and then we go up. We start learning all these new skills. Things that we thought that it was, really hard becomes easy.
We are in this together. Coast to coast and shore to shore. No more hatred, no more war. Purple mountains, majesty. My country 'tis of thee. We
together.
Welcome back. I'm Derek J. Simpson. We have been chatting with Gregg Young, and you just heard some of Gregg Young, and that song was Together, and you say there's a story behind that that's current.
Yeah, when you first asked me, who is Gregg Young, I'm somewhat of an empath, if you will. So I'm very empathetic as an artist. When something happens, it turns around and becomes music. Right. And with our 2016 presidential election being so contentious and divisive, this was released at the beginning of November together because in my heart, I believe, one, we're all Americans. Two, that we need to come together, whatever the outcome of the election was going to be, right. And now we know what it is, and we need to work together. And so some of the lyrics would be, we are in this together, you and me, American family, you and me, American family. And it sounds kind of silly, but it's set up to be used as a complete song with possibly an orchestra, for sure, a full band. I hear a children's choir as well as a gospel choir with it. And so then one of the lines I like the best is coast to coast and shore to shore, no more hatred, no more war. My country, 'tis of thee. Purple Mountain's majesty, my country, 'tis of thee. We are in this together. So it's based on that, and it was just myself and my guitar because I wanted to get it done when it was fresh, if you will.
When it's raw, that's when it's most powerful. I keep a little pad by my bed when I wake up at night. In the middle of the night, sometimes and now it's my phone.
Yes.
I just type a note on my phone so I can come back to that lyric.
And then you know what I use too on the phone? I use the notes. And so I'll take a note and I'll actually sing whatever it is, the melody and or lyrics or whatever, and so I'll have a recording of it.
Well, see, I'm not a vocalist, so I'll leave that part alone. I'll come to you to sing it. I'll just write it. Gregg, when we were talking in the first half of the show, you were talking about the various artists, and you were talking about some of the stages that you shared, not necessarily that you performed with people, that you were in that mix. But when you think about in your career some of those favorite performances that when you just were in that zone and it felt really special to you, what are some of those performances that come to mind, or the performance?
Well, since you opened it up a little bit more, there would be three. One was the Vortex Festival in Estacada, Oregon. It was in this valley. It was outdoors next to the Willamette River. And I think the estimates were there were about 35,000 people. And when we went on Sunday, I had never experienced, I was really young, where everybody, does the, at that time, Bic lighters or whatever it was.
Right. Just hold up a
and to see it going through this entire valley, going up on this hill, it was for me, it was breathtaking. It doesn't happen every day. Right. And so when you see that happen, it kind of, it gets inside of you. It does something to you. Yeah. But recently, there's been two. One is really just so heartwarming and wonderful. The Jonathan Jakes Children's Cancer Center played for it for over 20 years. Their annual run, Champions Run for Light torch run by the what is it called, the lighthouse on that park there. And so children with their cancer in remission, their parents and their sponsors, they run an eighth of a mile with an Olympic torch. And we were asked to play the gala a couple years back, and we did. And I was so inspired, and we were very lucky. It's really a blessing because Kevin, our technical director, had just bought a hard drive recorder, and we never had one before. And he captured it, and it's on iTunes as well, and it's called All About the Children. But the most touching part was when we did it the next year, and they played it. They played the song over the sound system, and you have 5,000 people holding hands and singing the song.
Oh, wow.
Tiki Pasillas, who's one of the other players that works with us, he's a percussionist. He lives here in town. He came up to me, and just so you know who Tiki is, he worked with Mark Anthony for 15 years, and he's touring with Arturo Sandoval right now. Yeah. And he'll be playing there's one coming up shortly that won't, when this airs, it's too late, it's gone. Right? Anyway, but Tiki came up to me and he goes, Gregg, that's unbelievable. And for him to say that after everything he's done, because it was.
Right.
And then the other one that's really extra special is at the Carpenter Center, and it was for something called Classroom Connections. Classroom Connections is an educational outreach, and they bust in like, I think, almost 1,000 children, 4th and 5th graders. And when we did the presentations at the school, the 3D Don't Do Drugs was the central focus of it. They are singing along with us, and it's recorded and it's on iTunes, where you can actually hear the kids. And that was when I have 1,000 kids all singing with us. That's very. I don't have words for it.
Now I'm holding this up, and I hope we can get a shot of it, because in the mail today, as we recorded this show, you get this.
Woo!
And this had to be exciting. So tell the story behind what we're looking at here.
Oh, okay. I'm a voting member of the Academy, as you are.
Right.
And I haven't had a product that for Grammy consideration for a long time. We have a new album out, and it's called Portraits. And in it, it's all instrumental, and so we were considered for Best Contemporary Instrumental. I was considered for Best Instrumental Composition for the 5th song, which is an original called The Dome. And then Steve McNeil, our legendary engineer who has Mambo Sound and Recording here in Long Beach, he was considered for Best Engineer Non-Classical. And so we have Suavecito, we have Soul Bossa Nova. Soul Bossa Nova is the Austin Powers theme song that Quincy Jones wrote, that we redid. We have Iron Man, which is a reggae jazz version of it rather than a metal one. And then we have Riders on the Storm as a hip-hop jazz piece. In addition to The Dome, which is a soca original piece for where I am the music director and leader of the house band at the historic, iconic California landmark Dome ArcLight Entertainment Center in Hollywood. And I'm celebrating, the whole band is celebrating our end of our 14th season there.
Wow. Wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
On just being in the mix of consideration, regardless of how the outcomes end up. You were there, and it speaks to the quality of your work.
Thank you.
When you talk about all the people that you've played with, but who are some of those artists that you look up to, even in today's time, that you think, wow, they are someone I'd even pay to go see?
I have pondered that, and let me start with the I had the pleasure of meeting when I was really young, Wes Montgomery.
Oh, wow.
And Wes Montgomery is, to me...
That's a unique sound.
Whew,
That's a very unique sound.
And then, of course, Joe Pass as a guitarist.
Okay.
And then loving Jimi Hendrix. And then when Jimmy passed, then it went to Stevie Ray, because that's that same vein, if you will. And today it's Joe Bonamassa.
Now
He kills it.
You got
He
your
kills
guitar there. While you're talking to me, why don't you pick it up? And what's that favorite lick that we might hear if we go out there and hear Steve Young?
Oh, Steve Young, that's my cousin, the football player.
Yeah, that guy too. Let's hear Gregg Young.
All right, let me see. Actually, I'm going to just like do a little improvisation.
There you go. Very cool. When you look at musicians as you've come through the years, how has entertainment changed, Gregg, from your perspective? What are some of the most dynamic changes that you find have revolutionized it or changed it, good or bad?
Well, yeah. It's always a double-edged sword when it comes to something
Yeah.
like that. And so one of the first things is you travel from let's say the LP and the 45 RPM records to,
I'm just going to sit it here.
oh, okay, to 45, and then I took notes on this actually. So, yeah, so you have, first the 78s, which was like, we just celebrated the Pearl Harbor celebration for that horrible
Right.
time. So at that time there were 78s, then it goes to 45s and LPs, and then you have cassettes, and then you have CDs. And then from there it goes to downloads, and now, unfortunately, it's gone to streaming. And so that being almost like a bell-shaped curve in that there were less people, there was a fair amount of money being made with CDs in the music industry, but all the way down to streaming now. And I'm not a whiner, I don't like whining, but part of the issues, and this is for the younger musicians too, the major labels, there's only 3 of them now, and everything are subsidiaries of them. And they made a deal with Spotify and some of the other streaming groups, especially Spotify, where they're receiving millions of dollars up front for streaming of artist material. But what they did is they structured it for the artist where it's not considered a royalty. So all of your legacy artists, all of your new artists that are really, let's say like Beyonce or whomever, let's say Taylor Swift, whomever, they're fighting to get those considered as royalties so they can make some money. And so they're making deals so they get part of that. Because
Part of the livelihood, right?
yeah. And to not receive, to have it go from, let's say, a 99-cent download, which is kind of like a 45, used to be maybe $1 or whatever it was for a 45, to 0.0037 cents for a stream. That's not really good.
We're out of time, and we're not out of things to talk about. I want to thank you, though, Greg. I want to thank you for joining us on today's show. Be sure to follow PatNet TV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest updates. We also welcome your comments and thoughts regarding this show as we strive to make Long Beach Lens a favorite source of local news, information, and entertainment. This show has been brought to you with support from the Long Beach Community Action Partnership. Thank you for watching Long Beach Lens and Greg Young.